Welcome back to another epic countdown. We all know them as untouchable global superstars, dominating stadiums worldwide. But what happens when the flashing lights fade? Who would have thought that behind those killer dance moves and fierce personas, some of these billionaires are actually the ultimate softies? Which megastar completely drops his cool idol image just to carry his mom's shopping bags around the mall? Who is truly the most obedient son behind closed doors? Ready to uncover this heartwarming mystery? Let's dive into the list.
Number 7. J-Hope, the golden son's unseen devotion, a heart made of pure gratitude. When the blinding stage lights of filled stadiums finally turn off and the thunderous cheers of millions of fans fade into the quiet night, the global superstar known to the entire world as J-Hope completely sheds his larger-than-life idol persona to become someone much more grounded, humble, and fiercely devoted to his roots. Behind the charismatic smiles, the trend-setting fashion, and the unmatched dance skills that have redefined the global music industry lies the beautiful heart of Jungkook, a young man from Gwangju who has never once forgotten where he came from or the woman who sacrificed everything so he could fly. To truly understand the depth of his character and his absolute unwavering obedience to his parents, one must look past the flashy headlines of 2026 and journey back to a time when his dreams were nothing more than a faint flicker in a small dance studio. Growing up in Gwangju, Hosek's passion for dancing was not immediately met with open arms by everyone, as his father, a dedicated literature teacher, naturally envisioned a traditional academic path for his brilliant son. It was during these intense moments of familial tension that his mother stepped in as his ultimate anchor, quietly carrying the heaviest emotional and financial burdens to ensure her son could pursue his calling. She believed in his raw talent so fiercely that she chose to work far away from home in another city, enduring long hours of grueling labor just to fund his expensive dance lessons and give him a fighting chance at a brighter future. This profound sacrifice deeply carved itself into the very soul of young Hosek, instilling in him a relentless drive to succeed, not just for himself, but to honor the absolute devotion of his mother. This intense gratitude eventually culminated in one of the most raw and emotionally overwhelming tracks in K-pop history, his solo song titled Mama, which stands as a monumental, permanent monument of a son's love, where he openly sings about his deep regrets for his past immaturity and promises to make his mother proud so she can finally lean on him. As BTS skyrocketed to unprecedented heights of global fame, accumulating unimaginable wealth and influence, Hosek's attitude toward his parents only grew more protective, respectful, and incredibly tender. In a fast-paced industry where megastars often grow distant from their families due to overwhelming schedules, Hosek does the exact opposite, actively carving out precious time in his hyper-busy life just to be a regular, obedient son who prioritizes his parents above all else. Fans and insiders alike have whispered beautiful stories of how he transforms the moment he steps into his family home, instantly shedding the multimillionaire J-Hope image to become the helpful, doting Jungkook, who listens intently to his mother's daily stories, values her wisdom above any industry executive's advice, and joyfully assists with mundane household chores without a single shred of hesitation. But perhaps the most heartwarming aspect of his character is his absolute willingness to completely disappear into the background just to make his mother happy, frequently accompanying her on ordinary shopping trips where he handles the heavy bags, guides her gently through crowded spaces, and patiently waits as she picks out items, showing a level of patience and filial piety that is incredibly rare for someone of his stature. He doesn't view these moments as obligations or chores, but rather as sacred, long-awaited opportunities to repay a debt of love that can never truly be calculated.
Even when selecting gifts, Hosek treats the process with immense thought and reverence, notoriously preparing a stunning box of money wrapped beautifully with a customized flower arrangement for his parents, balancing both magnificent luxury and deeply personal traditional respect. His obedience is not born out of a strict sense of duty, but out of a profound, reflective awareness of the tears his mother shed during those difficult early days in Gwangju. Every single decision he makes, from the way he carries himself in public to the immense kindness he displays to others, is a direct reflection of the stellar upbringing his parents provided. He remains the ultimate role model of a son who reached the very pinnacle of global success, yet chose to stay completely anchored to his mother's side, proving that no matter how high he flies on the wings of fame, he will always land right next to his family, ready to serve, ready to protect, and always ready to listen to his mother's loving voice.
Number 6. Jimin, the angelic son's hidden promise. From starlight to supermarket aisles. When you think of Park Jimin, the immediate image that flashes before your eyes is a mesmerizing, ethereal performer who captivates millions with his gravity-defying contemporary dance moves and a vocal range that seems to touch the very heavens. Yet underneath this globally worshipped, untouchable idol exterior beats the heart of an incredibly soft-spoken, deeply affectionate son from Busan who treats his mother like absolute royalty. Number 6 on our list brings us to the breathtaking duality of Jimin, a man who can effortlessly sell out the biggest stadiums across the globe in mere seconds, yet considers his greatest achievement in life to be simply seeing the proud, warm smile on his parents' faces. To understand the profound depth of his obedience and unshakable loyalty to his family, we have to rewind the clock to the rainy streets of Busan, long before the Billboard charts and the Grammy nominations became his everyday reality. Back to a time when he was just a young, anxious teenager with a desperate dream of dancing. His parents, while initially worried about the harsh, unforgiving nature of the entertainment industry, eventually became his strongest pillars of support, with his mother constantly sending him homemade food and words of encouragement during his agonizing trainee days in Seoul, when he was pushed to the absolute brink of exhaustion and self-doubt. The immense guilt of leaving his family behind while pursuing a risky career path forged an ironclad promise within Jimin's soul. If he ever made it, he would spend the rest of his life ensuring his parents never had to struggle again, serving them with a level of dedication that is rarely seen in modern superstars. Fast forward to today, and that promise hasn't just been kept, it has been magnified 1,000 times over in the most beautiful, humbling ways imaginable. Despite sitting on a staggering net worth and possessing a level of fame that makes it nearly impossible for him to walk down a normal street without inciting an absolute frenzy, Jimin intentionally sheds his superstar aura the moment he returns to his family, transforming back into the sweet, obedient son who never talks back and always seeks his parents' guidance. Industry insiders and close friends often share deeply heartwarming anecdotes about how Jimin's demeanor completely softens when he receives a phone call from his mother, his posture instinctively straightening and his voice taking on an incredibly gentle, respectful tone that reflects traditional Korean filial piety at its absolute finest. But what truly melts the hearts of fans worldwide is the raw, unedited reality of how he spends his rare, precious days off, deliberately choosing to bypass glamorous celebrity parties in favor of dedicating his entire schedule to his mother. Can you imagine a multi-millionaire pop icon, a man who wears custom luxury pieces on the covers of global fashion magazines, casually putting on an oversized bucket hat and a simple mask just to push a shopping cart down the mundane aisles of a local supermarket or a bustling department store? That is precisely what Jimin does, willingly taking on the role of his mother's personal shopping assistant, carrying her heavy bags without a single complaint, and patiently following her from store to store as she carefully examines household items or groceries. He finds a profound, grounding sense of peace in these intensely ordinary moments, utilizing the repetitive, mundane act of shopping with his mother as an emotional anchor that keeps him connected to reality amidst the chaotic, whirlwind lifestyle of a global celebrity. For Jimin, obedience isn't about blind submission,
It is a beautifully conscious choice to continuously honor the woman who gave him life, to make her feel cherished, protected, and completely prioritized above his fame, his wealth, and his incredibly demanding career. He understands deeply that time is the ultimate luxury, and every second he gets to spend matching his mother's walking pace, listening to her talk about her day, and buying her whatever her heart desires, is a second he considers infinitely more valuable than any music award or record-breaking statistic. This intense devotion extends beyond just shopping trips. It bleeds into how he fiercely protects his family's privacy while simultaneously making sure they live in absolute comfort, famously supporting his father's business ventures in Busan while ensuring his mother has everything she could ever need. The contrast is almost poetic. The fierce, passionate performer who completely dominates the stage with his intense charisma is in reality a gentle, obedient boy who just wants to hold his mother's hand and carry her shopping bags, proving that true greatness isn't just measured by how many albums you sell or how many records you break, but by how you treat the people who loved you long before the world even knew your name. Let's dive deeper into the psychological landscape of a superstar trying to navigate the overwhelming tidal wave of global fame while desperately holding on to the core values instilled by his parents. For Jimin, these shopping trips are not just casual outings, they are a profound, intentional rebellion against the isolating nature of celebrity life, a deliberate act of reclaiming his own humanity. When the camera flashes finally die down and the deafening roar of the stadium crowds fades into the quiet hum of his private life, the silence can often be deafening for an idol of his magnitude, which is why returning to the simple, almost meditative task of navigating a crowded department store or a quiet grocery aisle with his mother provides a psychological sanctuary like no other. He revels in the beautiful normalcy of it all. The soft squeak of the shopping cart wheels, the vibrant colors of the fresh produce, the casual, unscripted conversations about which brand of soy sauce is better, or helping his mother pick out a warm coat for the upcoming winter season. In these seemingly invisible moments, he isn't Jimin of BTS, the global megastar. He is simply Park Jimin, the devoted son, who actively listens, nods obediently, and rushes to grab the heaviest bags before his mother can even reach for them. This level of extreme humility is completely mind-blowing when you consider the sheer amount of power and influence he wields globally. He could easily hire an entire fleet of personal assistants to run errands, buy groceries, or procure the most exclusive luxury goods for his family without ever lifting a finger. Yet he vehemently refuses to outsource this specific duty. Why? Because for Jimin, the act of accompanying his mother is an irreplaceable love language, a physical manifestation of his immense gratitude for the time she held his hand when he was a terrified child facing a daunting world. It is a stunning display of deep-rooted Korean cultural respect, mixed with his own unique angelic empathy that fans have come to adore. Furthermore, his obedience goes beyond just physical presence. It is a deep emotional availability that he guarantees to his parents, making sure that despite his chaotic, unpredictable schedules across different continents and time zones, he always answers their calls, seeks their advice on major life decisions, and genuinely values their traditional wisdom over the slick, calculated advice of industry professionals. There have been countless whispers and subtle observations from lucky fans and staff members who have accidentally witnessed these private family moments, noting how Jimin's entire body language shifts into one of deep reverence, bowing slightly when speaking to his elders, his eyes crinkling into the softest, most genuine smile that you simply cannot fake for a camera. He treats his mother not just as a parent, but as an absolute queen who deserves the entire universe, showering her with love, respect, and a protective loyalty that burns brighter than any stage light.
Number 5. V, the global icon's secret sanctuary, from red carpets to carrying groceries. When the name Kim Tae-young is mentioned, the world immediately envisions a staggering visual masterpiece, the man continuously crowned as the most handsome face on the planet, a fashion industry darling whose mere presence at a Paris runway can cause the entire internet to completely break down, and a mesmerizing baritone vocalist whose soulful aura dominates the biggest, most illustrious stages known to mankind. Yet beneath this impossibly glamorous, high-fashion exterior,
Deep within the heart of the man the world adores as V exists a fiercely loyal, intensely nostalgic, and unbelievably obedient son who would gladly trade all the blinding camera flashes in the universe for a quiet, uninterrupted afternoon walking beside his beloved mother. To truly comprehend the phenomenal depth of Taehyung's devotion to his parents, we must take a deeply emotional journey far away from the glitz of Seoul and the towering, blinding billboards of Times Square, traveling back to the humble, quiet agricultural town of Gochang, where his extraordinary story first began. Growing up in a hard-working family of farmers, Taehyung's early life was completely detached from the superficial demands of the entertainment industry, deeply rooted instead in the raw, honest values of hard work, immense familial respect, and a grounded sense of reality that he has spectacularly managed to preserve, despite achieving a level of fame that most human beings cannot even begin to fathom. While his grandmother played a monumental, tear-jerking role in his daily upbringing, his parents were the absolute, unwavering emotional bedrock of his universe, constantly sacrificing their own comfort to ensure their uniquely talented son could chase a dream that seemed almost impossibly out of reach for a boy from the countryside. One of the most legendary, emotionally shattering stories that perfectly encapsulates this immense parental love is the tale of the expensive red jacket. When young Taehyung was finally preparing to move to the daunting, bustling city of Seoul to begin his agonizingly difficult trainee days, his mother, terrified that the wealthy city boys would look down on her precious son, scraped together an agonizing amount of money to buy him an incredibly expensive, bright red designer jacket, an act of pure, unconditional sacrifice that permanently burned itself into Taehyung's soul. He never forgot that red jacket, and he never forgot the immense weight of the love that bought it, shaping him into a man whose primary life goal isn't just to accumulate more personal wealth or shatter more billboard records, but simply to become a man exactly like his father and to treat his mother like the undisputed queen she is. Fast forward to the present day, where Taehyung sits upon an empire of unimaginable wealth, cultural power, and global influence, and yet the way he interacts with his parents remains breathtakingly untouched by his superstar status, displaying a level of traditional obedience that leaves industry insiders and fans utterly speechless. He is famously known to completely drop his Gucci boy persona the very second he is in the presence of his family, instantly reverting to the sweet, slightly mischievous but deeply respectful boy from Gochang who listens to his mother's every word as if it were absolute law. Can you even begin to picture one of the most famous men alive, someone who literally has global luxury brands fighting tooth and nail just to send them their latest exclusive collections, willingly putting on a simple, unassuming, oversized jacket and a bucket hat just to accompany his mother to a regular department store or a busy local market? This is not some carefully orchestrated PR stunt meant to boost his public image. This is the genuine, everyday reality of Kim Taehyung, a billionaire idol who genuinely finds pure, unfiltered joy in the simple, mundane act of pushing a shopping cart, carefully selecting groceries, and quietly carrying a mountain of heavy shopping bags behind his mother without uttering a single word of complaint. For Taehyung, whose solo music often reflects the depth of an incredibly old, nostalgic soul, these shopping excursions are not a chore, nor are they a forced familial obligation. They are an absolute emotional sanctuary, a desperately needed anchor to reality in a world where everyone treats him like a completely untouchable deity. Imagine the sheer sensory whiplash of going from performing in front of 90,000 screaming fans in a sold-out stadium, where every single move you make triggers an absolute avalanche of global hysteria, to standing quietly in the household goods section of a local mall, carefully debating with your mother over which set of dinner plates is the most durable. For most celebrities of his staggering magnitude, this abrupt transition back to normalcy would be jarring, perhaps even unwelcome. But for Taehyung, it is the exact breath of fresh air he needs to survive the suffocating pressure of his unparalleled success. He actively craves these moments of submission to his parents' authority, finding a bizarre yet beautiful comfort in being told what to do by his mother, because it reminds him that no matter how high he flies on the wings of his artistic genius, he is still, at his core, just a boy who wants to make his parents proud. When he walks slowly beside his mother, navigating the narrow, brightly lit aisles of a store, he is no longer the V of BTS who has to meticulously calculate every single facial expression and posture for the scrutinizing, unforgiving eyes of the global media. He is just Taeyoung, a son who is profoundly grateful to be able to spend his incredibly rare, highly coveted free time simply matching his mother's footsteps. He utilizes this precious time to seek her grounding advice on life, to listen to her utterly normal stories about the extended family, and to shower her with the kind of undivided attention and warmth that all the money in the world simply cannot buy. Witness accounts from those who have quietly observed these rare, incredibly precious family outings often note how Taeyoung's entire body language completely transforms. His normally intense, charismatic gaze softens into a warm, adoring stare. His posture becomes incredibly attentive, and he hovers protectively near his mother, gently guiding her through crowds and rushing to pay for every single item she even briefly glances at, no matter the price tag. When his incredibly deep, soulful baritone voice, the same voice that has brought millions of fans to tears across the globe, softens into a gentle, respectful whisper as he asks his mother if she is tired and needs him to carry more bags, you witness the absolute pinnacle of human decency, a stark reminder that true icons are built on a foundation of unshakable humility. It is an intensely beautiful paradox. The man who effortlessly dictates global fashion trends and breaks streaming records with a single note is perfectly content being a glorified bag carrier for the woman who believed in his potential before the world ever knew his name. His obedience goes beyond just physical acts of service. It's a deep psychological commitment to prioritizing his parents' happiness and peace of mind above his notoriously demanding career, always ensuring that he answers their calls no matter what continent he is on, constantly asking for their permission or blessing before making massive life choices, and fiercely shielding their private lives from the extremely toxic and intrusive nature of celebrity culture. He understands on a molecular level that the flashing lights of fame are entirely temporary, and the roaring crowds will eventually quiet down, but the blood, sweat, and tears his parents shed to give him this life are eternal, and he treats every single interaction with them as a sacred opportunity to repay a massive debt that he knows he can never truly settle.
Number 4. Jin, the worldwide handsome's silent vow. From sold-out arenas to carrying groceries. When the deafening roar of millions of devoted fans chanting his name finally subsides, and the glittering, custom-made stage outfits are carefully hung back in the dressing room wardrobe, the man universally recognized and globally adored as worldwide handsome undergoes a breathtakingly beautiful transformation that leaves both industry veterans and fans utterly speechless. Number 4 on our incredibly emotional countdown brings us to none other than Kim Seok-jin, the eldest pillar of BTS, a man whose staggering visuals, powerhouse vocals, and effortless magnetic charm have completely dominated the global entertainment industry for over a decade, yet whose heart remains permanently tethered to the quiet, unassuming love of his mother. To truly grasp the unfathomable depth of Jin's absolute obedience and his tear-jerking dedication to his parents, we must take a deeply reflective journey back in time, long before the historic Grammy nominations, the United Nations speeches, and the record-breaking stadium tours, back to a deeply vulnerable moment that permanently altered the trajectory of his entire life. During his younger days, before the blinding spotlight of global fame ever found him, Jin would often sit quietly in his family home, listening to his mother conversing with her friends.
He noticed a subtle, lingering sadness in the air, as her friends would endlessly brag about their son's massive academic or career achievements, while his own mother, possessing a heart full of love but lacking those conventional bragging rights at the time, remained painfully silent, simply listening to the others. That heavy, agonizing silence shattered something deep inside young Seokjin's soul, forging an unbreakable, ironclad vow within his heart. He promised himself, with every single fiber of his being, that he would one day become a son who would make his mother so incredibly proud that she would never have to sit in silence again. A son whose mere existence would be her greatest source of joy and ultimate pride. Fast forward to the present day, and that poignant, silent vow has not merely been fulfilled, it has been completely obliterated by a level of global success, unimaginable wealth, and cultural impact that practically defies human comprehension. Jin is now a towering titan of the music industry, a multi-millionaire who can effortlessly command the attention of the entire planet with a single playful flying kiss. Yet in a stunning display of pure, unadulterated humility, his attitude toward his parents hasn't shifted even a single millimeter from that of the young, determined boy who just wanted to see his mother smile. In an industry where megastars frequently become dangerously disconnected from reality, drowning in endless luxury and surrounded by sycophants who catered to their every single whim, Jin completely flips the script by actively seeking out the beautifully mundane, ordinary moments of life, particularly when it comes to serving his mother. There is a staggering, almost poetic contrast in realizing that this global icon, who regularly rubs shoulders with A-list celebrities and world leaders, finds his absolute greatest comfort in throwing on an incredibly basic, oversized hoodie, pulling a simple baseball cap low over his striking eyes, and stepping into the beautifully ordinary role of his mother's personal shopping assistant at a local grocery store or a bustling department mall. Can you even begin to wrap your mind around the sheer magnitude of this humility? He intentionally strips away every single ounce of his superstar armor, stepping entirely out of the blinding limelight to simply become Seokjin, the obedient, doting son who casually pushes a squeaky metal shopping cart down the fluorescent-lit aisles of a supermarket, patiently waiting as his mother carefully inspects the freshness of vegetables, debates which brand of household detergent to purchase, or contemplates buying new dinnerware for the family home. He does not view these domestic errands as tedious chores, annoying obligations, or a waste of his highly valuable time. Rather, he treats them as sacred, irreplaceable opportunities to physically demonstrate his immense gratitude, to show the woman who gave him everything that despite the chaotic, high-stakes whirlwind of his unbelievable career, she is and will absolutely always be the unquestioned center of his universe. When it's time to check out at the register, he doesn't just casually hand over a black, limitless credit card and walk away. He actively steps in to do all the heavy lifting, packing the groceries himself, loading up the most cumbersome heavy bags onto his famously broad shoulders, and gently guiding his mother to the car, ensuring she doesn't have to exert even the slightest bit of physical effort. This level of meticulous, attentive care speaks volumes about his character, revealing a man who completely understands that true filial piety is not just about buying expensive mansions or luxury cars for your parents, though he certainly has the limitless means to do so, but about the continuous physical presence and the willingness to perform acts of service that require time, which is undeniably the most expensive and elusive commodity in a superstar's life. Jin utilizes these quiet, uninterrupted shopping trips as a vital psychological anchor, a grounding mechanism that violently and beautifully pulls him back down to earth whenever the staggering pressures of being a global phenomenon threaten to overwhelm his mental peace. The simple, rhythmic act of walking step by step beside his mother, listening to her talk about the ordinary happenings in their extended family, or asking for her grounded advice on simple, everyday matters, provides a profound sense of emotional stability and inner tranquility that a sold-out stadium of 90,000 screaming fans, no matter how exhilarating, simply cannot replicate. Furthermore, his obedience is profoundly rooted in deep Korean traditional values. He never raises his voice in disagreement. He actively seeks his parents' blessing before making massive life transitions or career choices, and he fiercely guards their privacy against the aggressive, intrusive nature of the global paparazzi, ensuring they can live their lives in absolute peace, dignity, and comfort. Insiders and lucky fans who have accidentally witnessed these private, deeply touching moments note how Jin's entire aura completely softens. The goofy, loud, wildly confident persona he projects on variety shows completely melts away, replaced by an incredibly gentle, quiet, and attentive demeanor that radiates pure, unfiltered respect. By deliberately choosing to embrace this incredibly grounded, subservient role, by finding genuine, profound happiness in carrying heavy shopping bags and happily blending into the background just so his mother can shine, Kim Sek-jin sends an incredibly powerful, tear-inducing message to millions of people across the globe that the absolute highest pinnacle of human achievement is not fame, immense wealth, or global recognition, but the ability to remain a good, pure-hearted person who never, ever forgets the profound sacrifices of those who raised them. He stands as a monumental, living testament to the fact that you can conquer the entire world, shatter every single glass ceiling in the music industry, and become a billionaire global superstar, yet still remain an obedient, gentle boy at heart, proving forever that the true measure of a man is not in how loudly the world screams his name, but in how softly, respectfully, and lovingly he speaks to his mother.
Number 3. Suga, the fierce rapper's hidden tears, a vow made in the grocery aisle. When the name Suga, or his intensely ferocious, globally revered alter ego Auguste D is mentioned, the immediate image that violently flashes into the minds of millions is that of a razor-sharp lyrical genius who spits pure, unadulterated fire, a rebellious, unbreakable soul who fearlessly calls out the dark, hypocritical sides of the entertainment industry and society with an unapologetic, intensely fierce tongue. He is the musical backbone of BTS, a producing mastermind who commands sold-out stadium stages with a terrifyingly powerful presence, dripping with immense swagger and an aura of absolute untouchability. Yet, beneath this hardened, seemingly impenetrable armor of an underground rapper turned billionaire global icon lies one of the most unexpected, emotionally shattering paradoxes in the entire music industry. The heart of an unbelievably soft, deeply sensitive, and fiercely obedient son who would trade every single platinum plaque on his wall just to ensure his mother never has to lift a heavy shopping bag ever again. To genuinely comprehend the astronomical depth of Min Yoonji's devotion to his parents, we must take a deeply painful, incredibly reflective journey far away from the glittering, luxurious penthouses of Seoul, traveling back in time to the unforgiving, freezing streets of Daegu, where his extraordinary dream was first born out of sheer desperation and agonizing hunger. During his turbulent teenage years, Yoongi's burning passion for music was met with intense, heartbreaking opposition from his parents, who, far from being cruel, were simply terrified, hard-working people who desperately wanted their son to have a stable, secure future, rather than risking his life in an industry known for chewing up and spitting out young dreamers. They tore up his lyric sheets and vehemently argued against his choice, a period of immense familial friction that deeply scarred the young rapper, forcing him to leave home and survive on the absolute bare minimum, choosing between a bus ride home or a cheap bowl of noodles after selling his meticulously crafted beats for literal pennies. But Yoongi never let that initial opposition curdle into hatred.
Possessing a remarkably old, wise soul, he profoundly understood that his parents' anger was entirely rooted in a desperate, suffocating parental love and an agonizing fear of seeing their child fail and starve. This deep psychological understanding forged a quiet, ironclad resolve within him. He was going to conquer the entire world, not to rub his success in their faces, but to completely eradicate their fears and provide them with an empire of absolute comfort and security. The catastrophic emotional dam finally broke during an earth-shattering moment at a BTS concert in 2016, when Yoongi, amidst the deafening roar of thousands of fans, spotted his parents in the audience. The fiercely tough rapper completely broke down, falling to his knees and bowing completely to the floor in a traditional Korean expression of absolute reverence, his shoulders shaking with the weight of years of suppressed agony, guilt, and the overwhelming relief of finally achieving their proud acceptance. From that incredibly raw moment onward, his relationship with his parents transformed into a breathtaking display of absolute obedience and tender submission that completely defies his hardcore bad boy public persona. Fast forward to the present day, where Min Yoongi is a certified cultural titan with unimaginable wealth and power, a man who could effortlessly summon a legion of assistants to handle his every waking need with a mere snap of his fingers. Yet, when it comes to his mother, he intentionally and violently strips away his superstar status to become nothing more than her silent, highly attentive shadow. Can you even begin to fathom the sheer, mind-boggling contrast of a man who spits venomous, chart-topping diss tracks against his haters, quietly slipping on a completely ordinary black mask and a nondescript beanie just to obediently follow his mother through the brightly lit, completely mundane aisles of a local supermarket? This is the jaw-dropping reality of Yoongi off-camera. He actively seeks out the deeply grounding, incredibly ordinary task of being his mother's personal shopping assistant, completely abandoning his fierce swagger to gently push a squeaky metal shopping cart, quietly nodding as she examines the nutritional labels on groceries, and patiently waiting for hours as she browses through household goods or clothing racks. He does not view these domestic excursions as a nuisance or a waste of his highly valuable time. Rather, they are his ultimate emotional sanctuary, a desperately needed anchor to normalcy in a hyper-chaotic world that constantly demands his energy and treats him like an untouchable god. For Yoongi, the simple rhythmic act of walking step by step beside his mother, matching her slower pace, and actively listening to her completely ordinary everyday concerns is a profound form of healing, a physical manifestation of his immense gratitude that she is finally able to live a life free of the suffocating financial anxieties that plagued their past in Daegu. When the shopping trip concludes, you will never see him allowing a store clerk or a bodyguard to carry the heavy bags. Instead, this global megastar, who famously battled through agonizing shoulder injuries and intense surgeries just to keep performing, insists on bearing the entire physical burden himself, loading his famously broad shoulders with heavy bags of groceries and household items, fiercely protecting his mother from any form of physical exertion. Industry insiders and lucky fans who have accidentally witnessed these profoundly moving, private family moments are often left utterly speechless by the radical transformation in his demeanor. His usually intense, piercing, cat-like gaze softens into an incredibly warm, gentle stare. His famously blunt and straightforward voice drops into a remarkably soft, respectful whisper, and his entire body language screams of deep, traditional Korean filial piety. He is known to instantly drop whatever he is doing to answer his parents' phone calls, seeking their grounded wisdom above the slick, calculated advice of top-tier industry executives, and aggressively guarding their private lives from the extremely toxic, intrusive nature of global paparazzi with the ferocity of a protective lion. He treats his mother like the absolute queen of his universe, ensuring that every single luxury, every single comfort, and every single peaceful moment she desires is instantly granted, not just through massive financial support, but through the incredibly rare, highly expensive gift of his personal time and undivided attention. By deliberately choosing to step out of the blinding, glorious spotlight and fully embracing the quiet, beautifully ordinary subservient role of a bag-carrying, obedient son, Min Yoongi sends a roaring, deeply inspirational message to his millions of fans across the globe that true power, true resilience, and true badassery are not defined by how aggressively you can dominate a stage or how many millions you have in your bank account, but how fiercely you can protect your family, how deeply you can forgive past misunderstandings, and how willingly you can soften your heart for the people who gave you life. He stands as a monumental, living testament to the fact that you can be the most intimidating, powerful rapper in the world, a billionaire who has shattered every single glass ceiling in the music industry, and yet still remain an incredibly gentle, deeply obedient boy who genuinely loves nothing more than carrying his mother's heavy shopping bags, proving forever that the greatest flex a man can ever achieve is not a diamond watch, but the quiet, undeniable ability to make his mother smile with absolute, unshakable pride.
Number 2. RM, the genius leader's humble heart, a mastermind pushing the shopping cart. When we speak of Kim Namjoon, universally known as RM, the image that immediately commands respect in the minds of millions is that of a towering intellectual titan, a certified musical genius, a staggering IQ of 148, who single-handedly leads the biggest music phenomenon in the history of the world, delivering profoundly moving speeches at the United Nations, effortlessly conversing with world leaders, and orchestrating the complex artistic direction of a multi-billion-dollar empire. He is the undisputed brain and the sturdy, unshakable backbone of BTS, a man whose incredibly deep, philosophical lyrics have saved countless lives and reshaped the entire landscape of modern pop culture. Yet, strip away the Grammy nominations, the historic Billboard records, and the intimidating aura of a global spokesperson, and you will find an unexpectedly beautiful, almost comedic paradox. The man who confidently guides 6 other superstars across the treacherous waters of global fame is, in reality, a remarkably soft, famously clumsy, and fiercely obedient son, who immediately surrenders all of his commanding authority the very second his mother walks into the room. To truly understand the immense depth of Namjoon's absolute submission and tear-jerking devotion to his parents, we must take a deeply reflective, emotional journey back to his roots in Ilsan, long before the deafening roar of stadium crowds and the blinding flashes of the international paparazzi became his daily reality. Growing up as a remarkably gifted student who consistently ranked in the top 1% of the entire nation in his mock university exams, his parents naturally and quite understandably held massive expectations for him to pursue a prestigious, stable academic or corporate career. When a young, rebellious Namjoon first revealed his burning, overwhelming desire to become an underground rapper, a path that seemed insanely risky and entirely devoid of any guaranteed success, it caused an immense, agonizing wave of anxiety and friction within his household. His mother, terrified for her brilliant son's future, famously destroyed his microphone and lyrics to force him back to his studies, an act born out of desperate, suffocating parental love rather than cruelty. Instead of harboring deep-seated resentment, Namjoon utilized his profound, incredibly mature intellect to negotiate a desperate promise. He asked his mother if she wanted a son who was a first-place rapper or a 5,000th place student, vowing with absolute ironclad certainty that he would become incredibly successful and make her unspeakably proud if she just trusted him.
Fast forward to today, and that bold teenage promise has materialized into an empire of unimaginable, staggering proportions, making him one of the most influential cultural figures on the planet. Yet, despite holding more power, wealth, and global influence than most politicians could ever dream of, Namjoon's behavior toward his mother remains breathtakingly untouched by his astronomical success, showcasing a level of traditional Korean filial piety that completely shatters the typical arrogant rock star stereotype. What happens when the mastermind, who leads the biggest band in the world, is suddenly commanded by his mother? He listens, he nods, and he immediately transforms into her loyal, oversized assistant. Can you even begin to visualize the sheer, incredibly heartwarming absurdity of a towering 6-foot-tall global icon, the very man who famously breaks everything he touches and earned the affectionate nickname God of Destruction, carefully and meticulously pushing a squeaky metal shopping cart down the utterly mundane, brightly lit aisles of a local grocery store or an upscale department mall? This is exactly what Namjoon does, deliberately shedding his intimidating leadership persona to become the ultimate obedient bag carrier for his mother. For a man whose brain is constantly running at 1,000,000 miles an hour, constantly analyzing global trends, penning incredibly complex lyricism, visiting high-end modern art museums, and managing the astronomical pressure of representing his entire country on the world stage, these seemingly mundane shopping trips serve as an absolute, desperately needed psychological sanctuary. The simple, beautifully linear logic of a grocery list, comparing the prices of organic vegetables, choosing the right brand of laundry detergent, or helping his mother pick out a new piece of furniture, provides a profound, intensely grounding sense of relief and mental silence that all the high-profile art galleries and exclusive VIP parties in the world simply cannot offer. He does not view these domestic excursions as annoying obligations, tedious chores, or a waste of his highly valuable time. Rather, they are sacred, deeply cherished opportunities to physically demonstrate his immense gratitude to the woman who eventually chose to trust his crazy, seemingly impossible dream. Imagine the intense sensory contrast, trading the deafening, bone-rattling bass of a 90,000-seat stadium for the soft, gentle hum of supermarket refrigerators and the quiet, comforting chatter of his mother deciding between two different types of cooking oil. In these invisible, beautiful moments, he completely sheds the heavy, suffocating crown of being BTS's RM. When you see him walking step by step beside his mother, his tall frame purposely hunched over so he can attentively listen to her everyday stories without her having to strain her neck, you are not looking at a mega celebrity. You are looking at Kim Namjoon, the sweet, profoundly respectful son from Ilsan, who just wants to spend his rare, highly coveted days off making his mother's life as comfortable and effortless as humanly possible. In a society that often incorrectly equates masculinity with toxic dominance, emotional distance, and a refusal to be subservient, Namjoon effortlessly shatters these archaic stereotypes by proving that there is absolutely nothing more manly, more powerful, and more incredibly attractive than a son who honors his mother with complete, unconditional obedience and gentle tenderness. His famous hobby of namjooning, taking quiet walks in nature, visiting tranquil art museums, and appreciating the small, overlooked details of the world, directly bleeds into the way he approaches these shopping trips, allowing him to find a deep, almost poetic beauty in the mundane act of selecting fresh produce, pushing a heavy cart, and patiently standing in long checkout lines without ever losing his temper or complaining about the wait. He notoriously refuses to let his mother carry a single, solitary item, utilizing his impressive physical strength, built up through years of intense gym workouts that send fans into an absolute frenzy, to gently load up all the heavy bags, fiercely protecting her from the hustle and bustle of the crowds, while making absolutely sure to quietly and quickly pay for every single thing she even briefly glances at, armed with a warm, deeply dimpled smile that completely melts the hearts of anyone lucky enough to witness it. His obedience goes far beyond just physical acts of carrying bags. It's a deep psychological commitment to prioritizing his parents' peace of mind above his own notoriously demanding career, constantly seeking their grounded wisdom, checking in on them despite his insanely chaotic global schedules spanning across different time zones, and aggressively shielding their private lives from the extremely toxic, intrusive nature of the paparazzi with the sharp, calculated intellect of a master strategist. He deeply, intrinsically understands on a molecular level that the blinding lights of fame are temporary, the trending hashtags will eventually fade away, and the roaring crowds will one day quiet down, but the profound, agonizing sacrifices his parents made to give him a stable foundation are eternal, and he treats every single interaction with them as a sacred duty to repay a massive debt that can never truly be settled.
Number 1. Jungkook, the golden makhnae's eternal promise, the global titan who never outgrew his mother's shadow. When the deafening roar of 90,000 fans screaming his name reaches a pitch fever and the absolute pinnacle of global stardom, a level of success that essentially exists in a stratosphere of its own, becomes your daily reality, it is almost impossible for a human being to remain tethered to the ground. Yet, at the very top of our list sits none other than Jungkook, the world-renowned golden makhnae of BTS, a man whose unparalleled vocal talent, explosive dance prowess, and magnetic stage presence have completely redefined the global music industry and turned him into the most sought-after icon of his generation. But beneath the layers of unimaginable fame, the billions of streams, and the status of a modern-day cultural deity, lies the heart of a young man who has never once allowed the blinding, corrosive nature of celebrity life to distance him from his most sacred, foundational origin, the quiet, unassuming love and traditional authority of his parents. To truly, deeply comprehend the staggering magnitude of Jungkook's filial devotion and his absolute, unshakable obedience to his mother, we must take a profoundly emotional journey back to the very beginning, to a point in time that most people forget when they look at the polished, untouchable superstar he is today. Jungkook was just a child, a mere 15-year-old boy, when he was abruptly uprooted from the familiar, comforting streets of Busan and thrust into the cold, cutthroat, and terrifyingly demanding world of a K-pop trainee in Seoul. He was a teenager who missed out on the typical joys of childhood: proms, school trips, late-night hangouts, sacrificing every single ounce of his youth to the grueling, bone-crushing training regime that ultimately forged him into the monster performer he is now. This radical, early separation from his family, combined with the immense, agonizing pressure of being the youngest member of a group that was fighting for its very survival, created a deep, permanent emotional scar in his psyche, a longing for his roots that never actually faded, regardless of how many stadiums he sold out. During those early, traumatic years, his mother was the sole flickering light in his dark, uncertain tunnel, the one person who kept his fragile hopes alive when he was constantly on the verge of quitting and returning to the safety of Busan. Because he was so incredibly young when he left home, and because he spent his entire formative adulthood living in the hyper-controlled, artificial environment of a dorm, Jungkook possesses a unique, almost childlike vulnerability when he is around his parents, an intense, innate obedience that feels like a beautiful, emotional rewind to the time before the world knew his name. Fast forward to the present day, where Jungkook is a singular, unstoppable force of nature, a multimillionaire who could purchase any luxury in existence with a mere flick of his wrist, and yet the way he conducts himself in his private family life is a stunning, tear-jerking rebuke to the arrogance of his celebrity status.
Industry insiders and those lucky enough to have witnessed his rare, quiet moments away from the public eye often describe a man who completely vanishes into his own shadow the moment he steps into his family home, shedding the Jungkook of BTS persona instantly. He doesn't walk around with the ego of a global megastar. He walks around as the dutiful, humble son who respects his parents' household rules as if they were divine law. The most beautiful, emotionally resonant aspect of his character, the one that leaves millions of fans worldwide in an absolute sobbing mess, is the way he handles the simple, everyday chore of grocery shopping with his mother. Can you even begin to visualize the sheer mind-bending absurdity of a man who features on the biggest global pop hits, who holds records that will likely stand for a century, and who has millions of people worshiping his every move, intentionally choosing to suppress all of that power just to push a mundane, squeaky shopping cart through the narrow, crowded aisles of a local supermarket? He doesn't just do it, he revels in it. He is famous for being the golden maknae, the guy who is good at everything. Yet when he is with his mother, he intentionally makes himself the assistant, the person who does exactly as he is told, the person who listens to her critique of the grocery prices, the person who stands by quietly while she picks out the best fruit. He views these shopping trips not as a burden, not as a waste of time, but as a sacred, long-awaited, and absolutely essential act of service that allows him to reconnect with the boy he was before the world demanded he become a king. He is notorious for being the most attentive, protective, and obedient son, rarely letting his mother carry even a single solitary grocery bag. He will load up his famously strong arms, the ones that are tattooed with art representing his life and his growth, with mountains of heavy, awkward bags, and he will carry them with a look of absolute, genuine contentment that you can never, ever fake for a camera. He treats her with the kind of intense, reverent care that makes you realize he is still that young, lonely 15-year-old in his heart, desperately trying to prove to his mother that he is still the same child she raised, despite the towering, intimidating global icon he has been forced to become. His obedience is not a performance, it is a profound, deeply felt, and entirely sincere manifestation of his love. He constantly seeks her counsel on life's biggest, most stressful decisions, genuinely valuing her traditional, grounded wisdom far above the flashy, calculated, and often empty advice of industry executives who are only interested in his bottom line. When he is with his parents, he is quiet, he is attentive, he is patient, and he is fully present, a rarity for a man who is constantly surrounded by people who are trying to grab a piece of his time, his money, or his energy. He has even gone to the lengths of purchasing a massive, stunning house for his family, not as a flashy flex for his public image, but as a deep, private promise kept to his parents, a sanctuary where he can escape the toxicity of the world and simply be their son again. His life is a relentless, exhausting, and often isolating marathon of performances, interviews, and global travel, but these quiet, stolen moments at the grocery store or the mall with his mother represent the only time he truly gets to breathe. By choosing to prioritize his role as an obedient, bag-carrying son over his role as a global superstar, by intentionally humbling himself in the face of the people who gave him his life, Jungkook sends an incredibly powerful, deeply inspiring message to his millions of fans that true greatness, true strength, and true success are not defined by the height of your fame, the volume of the applause, or the number of zeros in your bank account, but how fiercely, unconditionally, and humbly you love the people who raised you. He stands as a living, breathing, and monumental testament to the idea that you can conquer the entire world, shatter every single glass ceiling in the music industry, and be recognized as a generational legend, yet still remain a humble, obedient child at heart, who genuinely finds his greatest, most profound happiness in the simple, beautiful act of following his mother through the grocery aisles, proving forever that the most vital,
irreplaceable part of his identity isn't the Jungkook of BTS, but the son who always puts his parents first.